You said in your presentation, Sonia, that the contractor was commercially acute post-contract. How did this manifest?
Well, they were very attentive to any changes to the employer's requirement, and they never missed an opportunity to claim additional cost.
Okay, and how did you deal with the contractor's behaviour?
That was a non-risk, so we spent a lot of time pre-contract to prepare a very tight contract. So what I did was just applying the clauses of the contract, and the contractor eventually understood that it was a very tight contract, but we still had a lot of negotiation meetings.
And how did you prepare for the negotiation meetings with this contractor?
Well, I made sure that I had all the information required. I checked the drawings, specifications, contract analysis.
What did you think was key in the success to your negotiations?
I think the contractor realized was acting in a fair and reasonable manner, and we established mutual respect, and also having all my facts right was essential in these negotiations.
Okay. You mentioned that bids were assessed using a scoring matrix. What criteria did you use in this project?
Well, we used 70% quality and 30% cost. The most important criteria was the ability of the contractor to deal with stakeholders and other contractors on site. We also had a health and safety strategy, quality control, and staff CVs.
And could you tell me what the purpose of a PQQ is?
It's to pre-select a list of contractors who have the required skills and experience to complete a project.
And also, what criteria do you usually include in a PQQ?
I will include health and safety records, general company information, team structure, financial information,
Okay.
stuff like that.
And how do you carry out a credit check?
My company subscribed to a website where I can just get a high-level scoring, credit rating scoring, but also can calculate a few ratios and check if the company has not gone under any major restructure.
Okay. And within your second key issue, which relates to the council offices, which is still under construction, what BREEAM level are you aiming to achieve at the council offices?
Excellent.
And how many credits have you achieved so far?
I believe we are up to 68, and I don't think we're going to have any issue to achieve the 70 we need, because we're not even halfway through construction.
And what main elements do you think have contributed to this high score?
Well, we've got some obvious ones. We've put PV cells on the roof. We've got lighting controls and movement sensors. Then for materials, we use recycled glass for the cladding, and the contractor helped us to source local labour and materials. We've been very lucky as well because the council offices are right next door to a train station, bus stops, and a brand new supermarket. And then there's some bit more obscure credits, like the council had to write a letter saying they were going to turn off all the lights by 10 o'clock at night, and that helped us to get an extra credit in management.
Okay. Moving on to competencies, let's look at contract practice. How do you carry out evaluation under the JCT design and build?
Well, the contractor issue is monthly interim valuation around the date specified in the contract. The contract administrators got 5 days to issue a certificate from the due date, and payment is made within 14 days of the due date. And the due date is the latest of either the contractor's application or the date specified in the contract.
And what happens if the contract administrator does not issue his certificate within the timescale?
Well, the sum applied by the contractor becomes the due sum.
And what would you do if you can't agree the valuation with the contractor?
If I can't agree, well, we'll go on site with a QS to visit the site. Are you talking about payless notice?
Yes.
I issue a payless notice. Or the contract administrator issue a payless notice.
Okay. How do you deal with change under the NEC, option A?
Okay, the contractor or the project managers got to issue an early warning, and then the contractors got, as soon as they become aware that there is a potential change, and the contractors got 8 weeks to issue a formal compensation event notice.
And how long does the contractor have to issue a quotation?
3 weeks.
And what happens if he does not issue the quotation?
The project manager make his own assessment.
And if the project manager does make his own assessment, how long has he got to make his own assessment of the compensation event?
To send on the contractor 3 weeks.
Okay. What insurances would you expect to find in the JCT contract?
Okay, you've got employers' liability insurance, public liability, non-negligence insurance, contractors' all risk insurance, terrorism cover, PPI.
PPI? What does PPI stand for?
It's professional indemnity insurance, which is PII, not PPI, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Moving on to project financial control and reporting. What do you include in a cost report?
Okay, I include an executive summary, exclusion assumptions, cash flow forecast, expenditure of provisional sums, contract instructions, anticipated variations, and variations to date.
Okay, and how do you report on the contingency within your cost reports?
Okay, so if I forecast that the outturn cost will be more than the budget, and that I don't know about any savings that's going to counterbalance it, then I will expend the contingency. But sometimes I won't, because maybe I will need it for something else that I know for later.
Okay, and who does the contingency belong to?
The client.
Does it always belong to the client? If it's not expended, where does the money go?
It goes back where it comes from. I mean, it depends, because sometimes the project is being funded from different sources.
Okay, and who has authority to order the expenditure or not of contingency?
Is it the client?
Still in contract practice, if a client wants the earliest possible completion date, what form of contract would you recommend and why?
Okay, they can go for a two-stage tender or early contractors involvement, or they can instruct enabling works under a separate contract.
Okay, my question related to contract practice, not procurement. If the client wants to start on site in the next couple of weeks, how can you get about it?
The next couple of weeks. Well, they need a contractor in place.
Yes, a contractor has been selected, but the contracts have not been signed yet. Is there a letter that you could potentially issue?
A letter of intent.
Okay, and what would you write within the letter of intent, and would you write it yourself?
No, I wouldn't write it because I'm not legally trained or competent in this field.
Okay. I'm now going to cover construction technology. You mentioned that you looked at various construction techniques for an air traffic control tower. Please tell us about it.
Okay, I looked at 3 different heights for the tower on 3 different type of frames. I looked at a steel frame, a hybrid concrete and steel frame, and an innovative method called twin walls. So the twin wall is like in situ concrete poured between 2 layers of precast concrete panels, a bit like a sandwich.
Okay, this is very unusual. How did you obtain cost data for this?
Well, I had to work very closely with a structural engineer and 2 specialist subcontractors, and I had to price it from first principle, that is to say using labour, plant and materials, exactly like a contractor would do.
Okay, and what other design factors influenced the cost in this project?
There was a lot of things. I mean, for the highest height, we had to take into consideration dampering measures because the tower would swing under the wind loads otherwise. For the twin walls, we had issues with the propping ropes because they were interfering with the staircase. The steel frame was good because it helped us to get a smaller footprint, and we saved money on piling, on the ground slab. And also there was a fire treatment which was different from one method to another.
Okay, so which solution was eventually chosen, and was it based on your recommendations?
Well, actually we decided not to use any of them because all of them were over budget. It was only a secondary tower, a contingency tower for emergencies. So the client decided to shut down the old tower and use it as a contingency tower, and instead we built a brand new state-of-the-art tower, which is now at the airport.
Okay. We're now going to move over to quantification and costing of construction works. You mentioned in your record of experience that you prepared the pricing document for the tendering, the highways and infrastructure. Which method of measurement did you use?
Actually, I didn't use any of the standard ones. What I did, I used a structure in the approximate estimate section in SPON Civil Engineering, and I split it in 6 bills to reflect each street that was being built. And the reason I did that is because I knew that we would have to transfer some of the works from one contractor to another, because we had 4 contractors on site there, and it was the easiest way, I thought, to easily identify and price the transfers of works.
Okay, and what colour are the approximate estimate section in the SPON Civil Engineering?
The colour of... You being serious?
Yes, I'm being serious.
I don't know. I use all the spawns, so some of them are pink, some of them are yellow. I didn't really pay attention. I mean, do you want to know this being structured instead?
No, it's okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so moving over to mandatory competencies. If your client wants to strike out the adjudication clause in a contract, what would you tell him?
Well, I will tell him that it will serve no purpose because the scheme for construction contract will apply by default, and that entitles the contractor to refer to adjudication.
Okay, and where would you go for advice on the scheme?
Do you mean a solicitor?
No, sorry, what I mean is in which Act of Parliament is it mentioned?
Oh, the Construction Act.
And what is the full name of the Construction Act?
Okay, I've got one chance out of 2. Is it the local...
No.
Okay, the other one. In the Housing Grants, Construction and Regeneration Act 1999 as amended by the Local Democracy, Economic Development and Construction Act 2009.
Okay. Have you seen your company profit and loss account?
Yes, our CEO came in January to give us a presentation.
And what is your company's turnover?
About £30 million.
Okay, and what is the company's 5-year business plan?
It's called Organising to Win, and our mission is to create exceptional and sustainable outcomes for our clients in natural and built asset environments. And it is centered around 4 main goals, which are sustainability, quality, people's potential, and something called enjoy the journey.
Okay, and what are the RICS 5 professional and ethical standards?
They act with integrity, always provide a high standard of service, act in a way that promote trust in the profession, treat others with respect, and take responsibility.
Okay, and could you give us an example of when you've applied one of them?
Yeah, sure. There's been lots. Sorry, I'm really... I know. Once one of my clients asked me to overpay the contractor to help them to meet their end-of-period targets, so I had to advise them that it was, again, ethical principles and I would be in breach of the RICS standards. But because I wanted to provide a high standard of service, I explored alternative options and I identified that materials off-site could be paid in advance if we put in place all the relevant vesting certificates.
Okay, and if a contractor invited you for a meal at the end of a project, would you attend?
Well, it is a very small industry and there's a high risk that they will be on my tender list for another project in the future, so I will politely decline.
Okay, and if your director decides to organise a meal or night out with a client, consultant or contractor at the end of the project, would you attend?
No, I will politely decline.
And if your contractor tells you that he has booked a place for you at a corporate event and that you will share a table with a contractor that you get on with well, what would you do?
I've got to politely decline as well.
Okay, so what is the RICS policy for attending corporate events?
Well, I think I've just shown you I'm not read it. I guess it's okay to attend some corporate events. I've not been faced with this situation in real life, but if I was, I would go on the RICS website to check the policy.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. This will conclude your interview. As I mentioned at the beginning, you are now being given the opportunity to have the final word. Is there anything that you would like to add or come back on?
No, thank you.